What is up, everyone? We had an emergency call this weekend. Somebody that we know was in contract to close on this house this week. It was in probate for a while. Now it comes down to it, they're not ready to close. They wanted me to take it over. So we're gonna run the numbers on it real quick, see if we can get it closed, hopefully this week, see what our hard money lenders can do for us, and let's go figure it out. All right, guys, the first thing we do, walk through the outside at every property, checking for structural damage, cracks, all that stuff. Yeah, there's some cracking in the bricks, but I don't know if it was just a bad brick job or if it's structural movement. Windows are not terrible, siding all looks like it needs replaced. Sometimes if you try to paint that stuff, it's so bad. It's just so far gone that it's just hard to save that stuff. So we'll probably replace all that siding. Basically, a lot of this brick and stuff we'll probably need to paint just because we'll have to do some adjusting on it and whatnot. We don't want all those cracks to show. It is nice that it looks like there's heat and air here. That means it was already there. Hopefully we can save some of the ductwork and whatnot. All right, first look. Floors look a little out of level. Stinks, but it's not the worst I've seen. Whoa, fly. Washer dryer. Yeah, there's a lot of cobwebs. See if we can go check the outside. Yeah, all this siding's gonna need replaced. Doors need replaced. Roof looks good though. Probably need to patch a little bit of the roof, but it looks pretty good. Remove that, get the trees off of it, clean up all the yard trash. Probably rebuild this full deck, new siding, so all new paint as well. Probably tear out the two sheds and the tree over here. So what I look at whenever I'm looking at a lot of the structural repairs that we're doing, I'm looking to see if there's cracking on one side, if you can see where it's moving the other way. Sometimes on this brick and stuff, it may not have been put up with great mortar and whatnot, so it may just be cracking in some areas and there may not be any movement on the other side. It's hard to explain, but if one side falls, that means something else has had to move somewhere else. It's not just gonna be a crack one spot and nothing else anywhere else, most of the time, I mean. So like if there's a crack that's right here, normally you'll see movement on the other side of the property, maybe by this next window where it looks like this corner may have fallen out, or maybe it might even be on the whole other side of the house where this whole side has sunken down. But sometimes whenever you see stuff like this and there's no other movement to it, it might just end up being that the mortar was not the greatest stuff that they installed or whatnot, or might have been just a brick that's moving out or whatnot. That's one thing that I always look for. Tiny little bedroom, nice hot water tank though, with new plumbing, that's a surprise. There are cobwebs everywhere in here. Tiny little bedroom, another tiny little bedroom. Also, another thing I like to look for is the ductwork. Make sure there's ductwork in every room. That way I know if I'm gonna have to end up installing all new ductwork and whatnot. It can get kind of expensive. Ooh, it's hot up here. You got plumbing up here and everything. There's ductwork, that's good. They already ran that. Got a nice little kitchen up here. It's technically, we need a closet for it to be a bedroom, but it is kind of nice to have a little extra living room up here. I'd like to look at the electric if we can. There's nowhere where there'd be exposed wires, is there? Yeah, it's new wires. Like to look to make sure there's grounding on the wires, because rewiring the house, we'd need to tear all the sheetrock off. Can get very expensive. All new wiring can get very expensive. So yes, just looking to see if we can save anything. If we can save duct work, save electrical, at least the electrical wiring, we're able to save a lot of the sheetrock on the walls, not have to tear into that, so that's nice. The windows don't look too bad. If I were to rent them, I'd keep them. If we ended up flipping it, we might end up replacing those just so it's all new. This back door will probably need replaced. Of course, all the flooring will be yanked out. All new light fixtures, all new plumbing fixtures, all new flooring, all new paint, all that stuff. Everything basically making it look nice and new. It's nice that that panel doesn't look horrible either. I mean, it looks old, but square D. Doesn't look horrible, but electrician will probably want to replace it. We'll see. So the plus and minuses on this house. The first plus, it's very cheap. Wiring, we can hopefully save all of that. Maybe need to do a new panel. All new lighting, of course. Those are things we normally always put. New flooring, we typically always put. All new paint, all that stuff. Trim, all new. Those are easy things and whatnot. Heat and air, at least there's ductwork. Hopefully it can all be saved. We're gonna need a new unit, of course, inside and out. So windows can probably all be saved, except for a couple here and there if we end up renting it. If we sell it, we'll do all new. A lot of the sheetrock is good. so not having to re-sheetrock the whole thing. The floors will all need jacked up, so that's gonna be an extra cost. So we will also end up putting all new cabinets in here, all new appliances. Might change things around, it's kind of funky layout in here. Washer and dryer. I saw some new plumbing in there for the hot water tank. Hopefully some of it's saved. We're gonna price it in as if it's not, as if we have to do some work to it. Same with the electric, we'll always add some for the electric. There's a lot of unknowns behind the walls and whatnot. Structural, we know we need to do a lot to the inside of the house. Outside, we might need a few piers here and there. A lot of those cracks were probably just superficial crack, but a couple of them we'll probably need some piers on. Overall, the house is not terrible. The only downside is it's far away and it's not the greatest layout, but I think we can factor those in whenever we're running our numbers. So this house is about 1,400 square foot. So for paint on this one, I'm gonna estimate we're gonna end up spending about $3.50 a square foot. So it's close to $5,000 on the inside paint, probably $1.50 a square foot for the outside. So that'll be about $2,100. So let's say $7,000 just on paint on this property. We'll end up probably spending about $4 a square foot on the flooring. So about $5,600 on flooring. So on this bathroom, we'll probably end up spending about another $3,000 on all the tile in here. That's labor, materials, and all that. On the electric, we'll probably budget about $4,000 on the electric. That's in case we need to replace a panel, in case we need to do extra little work here and there. Also all new lighting fixtures, all new receptacles, light switches. I'll say another probably $3,000 between plumbing fixtures, plumbing that we may need to fix under the house, all that stuff. I'll budget about $2,000 on the sheetrock. That'll be to fix all the little corner bead dings, all the holes here and there. If we end up having to do any extra electrical work, any extra plumbing work, just fixing everything here and there. Where the walls were cracking from the floor sinking a little bit, there's some cracks there. That $2,000 budget will cover all that stuff. We'll end up spending probably about $3,000 on cabinets for the kitchen and for the bathroom. I also forgot to mention the heat and air. The whole new heat and air unit will probably be about $9,000 to install, materials and everything. I'll budget maybe about $2,000 extra just for little repairs under the house. To put all new beams wherever we need under the house, I'm estimating that we'll probably spend about $6,000. That's labor, materials, all the beam work and everything that we need under there. So basically on the windows, it'll be about $5,000 to do all new windows in here. I'll add that door into that price as well. On the roof, we'll probably end up spending about $1,000 to do all the patches here and there. On this driveway, we'll probably need $7,000 to $9,000 depending on how far we go back. Then we need all new siding everywhere. That'll probably be another $5,000. So for the sheds and doing all this cleanup and also replacing that back deck, I'm guessing we'll probably end up spending about another $5,000 on all that. So let's go back to the office, check out the numbers on it, see if it makes sense, and see if we can get it under contract. All right, guys, we are now back at the office. It is actually the next day. On my way home yesterday, I ended up talking to my hard money lender. He was okay with the deal off of our initial numbers, but now I'm gonna go back through, make sure that our numbers are correct, make sure that we're ready to buy it, no surprises or anything like that. So this is our actual budget. Originally, I said that we're gonna do all laminate floors. I think we're gonna end up doing carpet upstairs, laminate all downstairs. I just noticed that I have this $4,000 in the wood floor area. Doesn't really actually make a difference, but I'll just change it just because I'm OCD. On the tile work, it'll probably be about $3,000. Sheetrock, I was probably close whenever I said $2,000. Paint on the interior, exterior, those are pretty close to what I had said. On the exterior siding, it'll probably end up being about $5,000. Roof, I put about $1,000. That was probably close. That'll be just to do a few repairs here and there. Also getting rid of those dishes off the roof and patching that. So about $1,000 will be covering that. $5,000 on the windows. That's probably pretty close. That's what I said when we were at the house. On the structural, that $6,000 will probably be enough to cover all the floors, a couple piers outside if we end up needing it. So that will all be covered with the structural price. On the heat and air, I was probably pretty close with what I said at the house. $11,000. That should cover everything, any extra ductwork repairs and whatnot that we'll need. On the plumbing, I said $3,000. I think that's close. It might end up being $3,500. I'll change that. Electrical, $4,000. That is hoping that we don't have to end up replacing any wire. I checked some of it while we were there. That doesn't mean that everything was what I saw. So hopefully we don't have to do more. If so, hopefully the price that we're getting at, it should allow for extra mistakes here and there. $14,000. to do all that concrete in front. That might be a little high depending on how much concrete we end up doing for the driveway and whatnot. $14,000, we'd rather be over than be under, so I like that price. $1,000 on landscape and dirt work. That'll probably just be to do some gardening up front, making it look nice, have a little bit more curb appeal. Like I said, it's a little bit funky outside, but we still like them to look as nice as they can. We're not gonna change the architectural look of the outside, so the best we can do is landscape to make it look really nice. On the kitchen countertop, that's one thing I left off whenever we were there. I got about $2,500. It's not a whole lot of countertop space that we need. It might go up a little bit if we end up adding that countertop upstairs where that extra little sink was. Who knows, we may end up putting a bathroom up there. It might be easy to do since the plumbing's already there, but we'll figure that out as we go. That would add cost to this project. It might add a little bit of value as well, but it really wouldn't be that hard. Just a few adjustments here and there, adding some walls, adding tile, tub, toilet, all that extra stuff does add cost. We'll see as we go. On the cabinetry, $3,000. I think that's what I said while I was there. That's not bad. There's not a whole lot of cabinets in there, so it might end up being cheap, but rather be over than under. Appliances, like I said in a previous video, we always put $1,000 on there. That gives us a microwave, dishwasher, and oven. Sometimes we'll end up putting a fridge or whatnot if somebody asks, but that's not a huge added cost. Dumpster, probably about $600. The cost for the dumpster of removing the shed and all that stuff, I have actually in the deck and concrete price. So I'm not gonna add a whole bunch of dumpsters for getting rid of those sheds or getting rid of that deck because I kind of already have that priced in there. On the cleanup, that'll be for the final clean and just hauling out materials here and there during the job. $500, that's not bad on that. So that gives us a total remodel of close to $75,000. So basically our all-in total in the property would be close to $120,000. That would be for holding costs, buying costs, cost of the property, cost of all the labor, materials, and everything. So on this property, it's 1,400 square foot. I put about 120 a square foot is how much we'll end up selling it for. That's based off some of the comps that we ran for the area. So we got a final sale price of about $168,000. I have all this stuff in here preset to where it gives me how much I'll make after taxes and after we refinance if we were to get 80% of the value out. So basically, if we kept this property and we refinance it, we would get $112,000 back if we were to refinance it for 80%. And with it being such a low cost for the area, we probably would cash flow pretty good on this property. It would cover all of our costs, make money on top of that, and we'd get $112,000 back. Plus we would have all the equity in the property. That'd be probably about $30,000 to $35,000 in equity. So this should hopefully be a good deal. If we end up wanting to sell it just because it's so far away, we'll still make about $30,000 on it. That's also if we can't cut costs whenever we're remodeling the property. This is just a budget. There could be other unforeseen things. We could end up spending a lot more. We've done it so many times that hopefully we have all those hidden costs figured out. Worst case scenario, in my point of view, we're gonna make $30,000 on this property. Hopefully it ends up being a little bit better of a deal, but we'll see as the property goes on. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this type of content, please like, subscribe, watch another video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.